What's up, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Live With. Today, we're sitting down with a very special guest, Kevin Ho, who, if you don't know, we absolutely love Kevin Ho. We've had Kevin on a half dozen times now, and we cannot get enough of everything he does.
Yep.
Today, we're really excited, though, to be talking about his recently released Venn Playing Cards, which were a collaboration between Momentum Cards, Kevin's brand, and Assembly, which is Eliot Slevin's brand. And I gotta say, man, this thing is a awesome looking deck. At first glance, it almost reminds me of like a retro like Pepsi logo, but different enough that you don't
Little
get
bit.
sued. Yeah. Oh man. So first
Totally
and foremost,
does.
Kevin, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Yeah, I'm just chilling here in Massachusetts, getting by.
Trying to
Freezing
stay
in
warm?
Massachusetts?
Yeah.
Yeah, trying to stay warm. I'm so not used to the cold still, even after close to 3 years of being here. I'm so used to Singapore weather. Where
Bro,
it's just
Yeah,
like,
which-
I was in
Very
Massachusetts for 30 years and I never got used to it.
I think once you like move somewhere warm and you realize that you don't have to be miserable all the time in the cold, it's very hard to get used to it again.
yeah.
But dude, outside Boston winter is coming to you very quick, so you might as well settle in and get used to it again. But at least you got some fun cards to play with this year.
Yeah.
So how long has this collab been in the works?
Since the beginning of the year, I believe,
Nice.
I been in touch with Eliot Slevin, who runs Assembly Playing Cards, and I pitched to him the idea of working on a deck that was inspired by Venn diagrams. And so, this is
I
what we
love
came
it.
up with. Uh,
And so where did the idea of Venn diagrams come from? Because like other than random scientific things and like sixth grade geometry, very rarely do you come across like a Venn diagrams in day-to-day life. What kind of prompted that idea?
so, because it was a collab to begin with between Eliot and I, it was sort of representative of that to begin with. The idea
Nice.
of like having
Oh.
two entities kind of crossing over,
Nice.
which is
Cool.
why the trailer video is called Crossover, because it's a collab between Eliot and I, both in terms of the deck and also the video as well. And with Aerodynamics, the series that came out before these, the cards were more optimized for Cardistry.
Yeah.
But this time I wanted a deck that would be okay to use for Magic as well. And so the circles kind of represent Cardistry and Magic in my life and how they've crossed over as well, and how I'm kind of at the intersection between those two.
So much
So
really cool.
thought goes into his deck. I love it.
You know what though? I always expect that with Kevin's decks. It's not just like, hey, here's 3 circles on a deck. There's always so much more meaning to it. And that's what I love about your brand is there is a lot of thought. There is a lot of intentional design elements and little aspects that people would just blow off as whatever. And you really just put that thought into it.
Yeah, it's so cool.
yeah, it's a very personal deck and one that I vibe with a lot. Like,
Nice.
What
Yeah.
made you choose the colors?
I think that it's a very like Pokemon kind of thing where you have like red and blue to begin
Nice.
with.
Yeah.
Even though I started with yellow, but I know that for most people they start with like red and blue, and that's kind of the go-tos when you are just starting. And Elliot and I found that those were some pretty like easy colors on the eye. We
Yeah.
were experimenting with like different colorways. And if you can, I don't know if you can see this on the card itself over here, but there's like circles that are emanating from the circles.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind
So
of
there's
like a
like a-
little bit of a relief there to it.
Yeah, like a bit of a ripple too.
Yeah.
So there's like a bit of a red shift over here from the red side, and then like a blue ripple coming in from the blue side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really dig those two colors because the red isn't like that really bright, sharp red. It's kind of like a muted red, so it could come off as like a, I don't want to say rust because it's not rust, but like in between orange and red,
Yeah, like kind of like salmon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
a little
darker.
bit, a little bit
A little
muted,
darker.
but yeah, it
Yeah.
looks good though.
I love those two colors together. I think it looks great.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And so, when you first jumped into it too, did you know you wanted this to be like a collab, or was that kind of an idea after the idea of the Venn diagram deck came together?
It started off as an idea on itself, just the idea of having the Visca Pisces up on a back design to begin with. And then I saw that Elliot had done his, I think they called it 313s.
Yeah.
the deck that had like the 3 shapes on it: the triangle, the square, and the circle, and very like 52 different backs with different colors and everything.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, cool. Like I think Eliot would be good for this since like he's done something kind of similar. So we worked together on this, and it came out better than expected.
Nice.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool. I think it's so cool how, I mean, there's so many different diagrams and different meanings and stuff like that. Like, how did even the Venn diagram come into your head?
Well, we saw it a lot in class, like math class, when I was a kid, like in math and science class, in terms of this and this, and it also popped up in a lot of memes in the past. One of those like why not both kind of memes.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just always been in my subconscious, and I think that where I really fell in love with the idea of a Venn diagram was when I read the comic The Invisibles by Grant Morrison. And
Okay.
there's a character in there who describes like our world as the intersection between the healthy world and the sick world. So, you have that whole like
Eclipse,
crossover,
kind of,
eclipse between, and then the white part is where we are, the
Right.
intersection between those two like worlds. And one of the fun things from that series was the idea that I don't know if, let me see how to display this over here. I think if, let me just get like a Sharpie or something.
Kevin, I absolutely love, honestly, just the thought again that goes into all of this,
So
and
crazy.
the minutia that is so impactful on this.
Of minutia.
Alrighty.
And
So we've
let's see
got
it.
like the Venn diagram over here,
Yeah.
but if you were to just take out the middle section and extended it like a little bit, like just that middle part there
Yeah.
over here, and you get this, you get kind of like the Jesus fish.
Yeah.
So the idea was that the Gnostics were using the Jesus fish to hide like the symbol of the Visca Pisces, the Venn diagram,
That's funny.
representing the intersection between the healthy world and the sick world being our own.
Interesting.
When I read
That's some deep stuff there.
when I read that back in like 2006 or something, I was just like, oh, that's so cool. So it stuck in my head, and then it ended up becoming a deck of cards, like 15 years later.
It's like, who the hell found that? Who the hell found like like, oh, the middle of this Venn diagram looks like the Jesus fish.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know. When you drew it, I was like, oh, Jesus fish. I'm like,
Yeah,
that can't
I
be
mean,
right.
yeah.
And then you said it. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Oh my gosh. And so now you mentioned earlier too, obviously the first series out of Momentum Cards was the aerodynamics.
Mhm.
Is this kind of a new direction you're heading with it, or can we expect to see kind of a continuation of aerodynamics as well, and this just being an evolution of the brand's catalog?
Yeah, I think it's going to be the latter. So this will be an expansion of what Momentum has,
Nice.
and aerodynamics will continue to be a thing, and we'll be experimenting with different colorways and designs for the arrows on that series.
Nice.
There's a little ad card for Venn that's
Nice.
got like these different colors on it, and so the first pairing up here with the red and the blue is over there.
Oh, cool.
Not to say that there will be these other ones
That's really
here,
cool.
but they're just like possibilities.
Looks like a color wheel.
Yeah, I like the
Yeah.
fact that it's like very color wheel-esque. Well, yeah, and I guess it really does pair up the way you would
Yeah,
expect it to.
it pairs up
Yeah.
no matter what direction you're holding it in.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always love to, like, again, the deep thought, but also the kind of minimalist approach you take with this stuff. So for this deck, did you decide to bring on a designer, or was it something that you kind of figured you'd want to try and take on yourself?
For Venn,
Yeah.
yeah, for Venn, I don't know how to use Illustrator. So previously I've been working with my friend Pablo on aerodynamics, and so
Yep.
for this round I worked with Eliot, Slevin, because of his work with 313.
All right.
And yeah, it went by pretty smoothly. He works pretty quickly, and he had a lot of really great ideas along the way. Like the ripples were his idea, and we put together this card as well, the thing with the skills, dreams, and reality.
Nice.
So this
Nice.
comes from a quote, which is, "The objective of skill is to turn a dream into a fact."
Interesting.
Mm.
And so, like you said too, I think you kind of mentioned the idea that this was geared towards both cardists and magicians, not just cardistry, where the aerodynamics was more towards that movement aspect, the cardistry ideal behind it. For you, how is that getting into the idea of designing and creating this deck that's meant for Magic, which you said is something you obviously started out with as well, and you're familiar with, but while retaining those cardistry friendly elements?
Yeah, so because it's a cardistry deck, I didn't really put too much investment into making it a two-way design. So as you can tell, it's one way from the reds and the blues being oriented, this way and this way. But for the faces, we added back pips on the faces. So whereas the aerodynamics would just have like a big arrow in the center, the Venn deck actually has pips, with the only difference being that all the odd cards have an aberrated pip on it with like, a red and a blue crossing over to create like their own little Venn diagram. So if you look here at like the 7, you'll see that there as well.
Yeah, that's cool.
Same thing with the 5 and all the other like odd spot cards in the deck have that feature. And
now,
so did the
also,
aces.
I love the kind of the red looks a little different too than like the traditional red, right? Like for the indices and the font.
Yeah. It's supposed to match the back.
I really like that. It kind of has an interesting like vintage vibe to it.
Oh yeah.
Like just because it has that like almost like
muted.
Yeah, it's like get that muted aspect to it. It definitely has that vintage vibe. Again, like this whole deck just has such a cool like. Maybe that's the unintentional aspect, the vintage kind of vibe to the whole deck, which I love. Like, but it's
vintage.
Vintage. Oh, dude.
Oh snap! Where's your drum? Where's your drum?
Oh my god!
I don't have the button handy.
Yeah, dude. And it's interesting to see though, like with those elements and all of that aspect, like what were some of the biggest things to you that were exciting to get into a deck? Like I know, and again, for anyone who doesn't know aerodynamics or who hasn't checked out Venn in detail, the link is down in the description below to head over to momentum.cards. I actually have the little thing here. I don't know why I'm shouting it in, but there you go. Momentum.cards. You can head on over there and check it out. What was one of the biggest things for you that you wanted to like get into this deck? Like you said, there was a very personal aspect to this. So obviously the back design and all of that, but what was more of like a fun little aspect that you were like, all right, if I can get this in here, and it's like almost like an Easter egg.
Oh, I see. Let me see.
I'm sure there's an Easter egg in there. We're talking to Kevin here.
So there is an Easter egg. It's on the box.
Is that the name spelled wrong?
Yeah. So I worked on this with Eliot Slevin. And so over here it says the concept by Kevin Ho, designed by Eliot Slevin.
Oh, I like that.
Because of Venn. Oh, there we go. There's a rim shot.
I found it.
That is too funny. That is too funny. And so
I thought that was just a mess up.
No, it was very intentional.
Nice.
You know what?
Actually did have some people emailing us being like, is this like a mistake or something?
That's why I thought it was a mistake. Because
I would have figured on one of them it would have been like, okay, that was a mistake, but on both,
no,
it's got to be intentional. Yeah. And so one of the cool things about this, I think, as well, is the fact that these things are coming in at $10 right now. So that looks to be a introductory price, but is that kind of the price you're going to keep them at for the foreseeable future? Or do you have an introductory period where you've reduced that down to $10?
So right now they're at an early bird price of $10 for this week. It goes back to $12 on Friday.
Just still a steal.
Yeah. So, we wanted to make these cards accessible for everybody because I know that cards can be kind of costly these days. So, you
Yeah,
know,
they can.
especially if you wanted to get like more than one, get like a half brick or something, and it comes in a nice little half brick box right here.
Nice. Oh, dude, I love that. That's just clean.
So cool.
That
I
really,
love
no,
those
really
colors,
is.
man.
It really is funny. Like they do kind of just now. I can't unsee the deconstructed Pepsi logo, but like it really works awesomely, and I do love those colors as well,
Thank you.
man.
Now,
And so,
what made? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
go ahead, Snoop. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was obviously you have a lot of terrain on the back of a card, right? What
Yeah.
made you like? How'd you come up with the size that you wanted to do? Was there thought? I mean, obviously there was thought behind that, but like, why not bigger? Why not smaller?
When we were figuring out the proportions for the circles on the cards, we wanted to make it so that we could have a decent number of ripples coming out from it. Because if there was too big of a circle, then you wouldn't be able to get as many ripples, and if it was too small, you would have too many.
Right.
So we found like the right, ratio between the two, so that the three sections would look kind of proportional, as well as creating a proportionate kind of afterglow from the ripple coming out from these two ends here.
Nice.
So that was what went into determining, what the size of the circles was going to be.
And how much did that like white central element play into maintaining that cardistry kind of vibe to it as well? Because I feel like that's such a stark contrast to the back design and the colors. It probably really helps stand out when a card is in motion or spinning or in flight.
Yeah, that's a good point. That did factor into it like a lot in terms of creating a central focus point for where the eye was going to be, where you're looking at the cards when they're moving. Because the thing about this is that the white part is the central focus area, while the rest is shifting around it. I mean, you could isolate, let's say, the blue circle and kind of move around there. Is it?
The white's still the one that moves. It's interesting.
Yeah, the white moves a lot. It's interesting.
Yeah.
The white seems to travel a much smaller distance than the other two, and it almost creates the illusion of
That
them
it
moving
moves
at different
more.
speeds. Yeah,
Yeah, it does.
it's really interesting that.
Like
Yeah,
the white looks like it's moving around the other colors.
Yeah.
that's really cool. Oh my gosh. And so obviously being a collaborative effort, how did that kind of work out for you being, so remote from your collaborator with this one?
Oh yeah, Eliot's all the way in New Zealand on this. The only difficulty was just figuring out times of day to work with each other.
Right.
Other than that, like he was pretty flexible with his time and quite available. And so when we figured out a time to work together on, sitting together and pulling up, the interface on this website, I forget what it's called, but it was like a graphic design website that he used to outline the cards as we
nice.
were just, working on them.
Yeah.
And then I would give him feedback, and then he'd send in a draft, and I would take a look at it and review it, and then eventually it was done, and we were happy with what we had. Sent it over to the team and got them made. So
Nice.
That's cool. It's so crazy how long it takes to prepare a deck. Doesn't matter how easy it is. Doesn't matter how simple the design is or difficult the design is. It's going to take a while regardless, even if you're using custom quartz or standard quartz. It's going to take some time to put together a deck. And
Absolutely.
man, it takes time.
That's what it's all about, though. It's that logistics aspect. Even if you're a fast designer, and we've seen people out there who can design a deck in a matter of days, start to finish. Really, I mean, sometimes even shorter. But at the end of the day, like the production side of it's always going to be the slowest part. It feels like, especially because once you've gotten to that point, it's so hands off. You're like waiting for someone else to do stuff. That's always like my least favorite part of the process.
Yeah.
And so do you have ideas in mind already for collaboration? I guess, I like the collaborative aspect of this because I really do think it ties in with the brand and it ties in with the community vibe of cardistry and magic being very collaborative, or hopefully one day continuing to evolve into a collaborative space. But do you already have ideas in mind of things you'd like to collaborate with Eliot on as well going forward, or is it more of like a let me see who else fits with each of the projects?
I'd like to do more decks in the Venn series with Eliot.
Nice.
I have not got a different idea for a deck yet to do with him,
Okay.
but maybe I might in the future.
It'd be dope to see a Venn deck with like real small iterations of the Venn diagram. So basically, it looks kind of like
like a B, but with like Venn.
Yeah, but like it could be a borderless. It could be like obviously bordered, but I think that'd be kind of cool. Yeah, that'd be kind of dope.
Like kind of like at a diagonal or something.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. You got to work with it and see which way looks best. It might be cool going the opposite way, you know?
Yeah.
Or you could just take the design, that center element design you have for like kind of like the color wheel and just go out with it and just keep kind of doing circles with it, you know?
That would be interesting. Yeah.
Well, that might be kind of cool.
Like instead of just having a colored, a recolor, kind of have a different type of
totally
diagram.
Different back. Yeah. You can you can even have the central one, make it a little smaller, and then do a bunch of smaller ones outside of it off of the main one.
Yeah, there's a lot of possibility in there for sure, because it is
right.
Yeah, because it's a very, you know, again, minimalist but impactful design. Like, I feel like the cool thing about it too is I feel like so many people have that nostalgic recognition of like a Venn diagram. Like, even if you haven't seen one since you were in school, you're like, I remember those things. So very interesting to see.
Yeah.
But it's always fun too to see what kind of decks you come out, because I think you come out with very different kind of styles. Like you said, it's all very intentional, but there's a lot of meaning behind it. It's not just like, oh, this looks cool. There's reasoning that leads to something that just also looks very cool. What sort of iterations did you go through on this? Were there different colors you had originally tried? Were there things that didn't work out?
Let me see. It's been a while. I'm gonna pull up my tablet.
Tableto.
Oh boy.
I mean, did you stop this diagram with like the butthole and put two together, or?
Oh my gosh.
Well, that's so strange. I don't really have the same drafts that I used to when I was mocking this up to send to Eliot. I wonder if there's anything in our Facebook chats that will have some trace of the lineage of all this.
Well, and you said too, it was a very long process to go from ideation to actual creation. But dude, it's fun to see how even something again that has a minimalist design to it really does have that same kind of length to it for creation. It's not so much just the drawing side of it. It's the thought behind it and the back and forth and the collaborative aspects. And I think I don't want to be like, oh, anyone can draw a deck once you know exactly what you want to draw, because I could know exactly what I want to draw, and I sure as hell can't draw it either. But I think from an art point of view, the getting there is probably not the hard, like the drawing itself is probably not the hardest part or the most time consuming part. It's probably that iterative aspect of it.
Yeah, definitely. I think that one of the biggest things that can get in the way of production overall is just like any hesitation or disagreement between like you and the person you're collaborating with.
Yeah.
But thankfully, Eliot and I were on the same page for a lot of this. Like we weren't very like at heads with each other when it came to working on the Venn. It's more so like, you think that's cool? Yeah, man, I think that looks cool. Cool.
Nice.
that definitely makes it easier. That's for sure.
Yeah.
One thing I found out that was kind of tough was, I mean, having somebody live in a different area, you know, you were saying that he was really good at responding and stuff like that, but just waiting on the time zones, you know, messaging him maybe while he's sleeping and then you having to wait. So it's kind of like, you definitely have to wait out those time periods, you know, for responses and stuff like that.
Yeah, that can be a bummer sometimes. If and I have worked in situations like that before with people in different time zones where it made it difficult to get in touch with them, and because we were on the different timelines. It made it so that when you were up, they would be asleep, and vice versa. So it'd be like, hey man, sorry I missed your thing. When are we going to catch up? And then
Right.
by the time you get their message, like you're up and then they're asleep. So
Yeah,
it,
and they
it can
don't
be it can be a hassle.
they don't check it as often, or
Yeah.
The worst
like,
is when you literally miss them by like 20 minutes and you're just like, damn. Like,
not
and then
even
you
20
just,
minutes.
dude, and then you sit there hoping, you're like, maybe they just didn't fall asleep yet. They'll check it and they don't. And you wait like 12 hours. You're like, all right, fine. It is really tough. I mean, I think a lot of times, in this day and age, especially the availability and the accessibility of remote collaboration is awesome, but it definitely has its downsides versus people who are in the same time zone as you, who are able to be walk over to someone's desk or their house or a coffee shop and chat, because you have kind of a captive audience to some extent,
Yeah.
And so now that this is out and obviously it's printed available, this isn't a pre-order, anyone can go pick this thing up, and I highly encourage people to pick it up before Friday so you can get it at the early bird price there of $10. How much have you been playing with this thing? I feel like you're one of those people who, once you have a new deck, you don't put it down.
It's my go-to right now. It's the only deck that I use.
I think the question is how many decks have you gone through?
Oh, I think maybe like 5 or 6.
Nice.
Oh wow. Okay.
I've given away quite a few to friends, and but I don't. Well, is that a lot? 5 to 6?
Well, no, especially. I mean, it's not. I mean, I guess it depends on when it came out. So it's been out for a little bit, kind of, right?
Yeah, they've been printed for a little while.
Right. So that
since
it
they've been
depends on
printed.
how long, but they just got publicly released.
Yeah.
So if you're counting since public release, it would be a lot. But you've had them for a little bit, so I guess, and you probably use cards a lot. So basically, it's probably not a lot. It's saying that they last a while, and
Yeah, it's not like the ones that I've been using are beat up or anything. I just sometimes I'm heading over to my girlfriend's place or something, and I leave a couple decks there, and then I come back, and then I need to use one, and then I'll just pick one up that's around the house, and then I need to film with one. But if it's too gummy, I can't use it on camera, so I have to open up another deck. So it all just depends.
I hear you. Now,
go ahead, Steve. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, how many decks do you typically keep for yourself, for each, kind of like your reserve stock? What do you keep for yourself?
Oh man, it really depends. I think it averages to around half a gross, so like 72 decks.
Nice.
Damn.
And do you give people decks out of those?
Yeah.
Or is that like my stock that nobody touches, and I have the other half of the gross is
No,
what I give out?
I'm very, very generous. So
right
and
on.
so what is your girlfriend's take on all of this playing card stuff?
oh, she loves it. Yeah. She's awesome.
Nice.
Does
Do you give
she
her decks? Does she
dabble in
play with it
cards?
all? Yeah.
I have a bunch of my decks over at her place. Like she has all of the aerodynamics except for the gilded.
Yes.
She has.
You can't leave the bling bling around the girl's house, right?
I don't even have that many. And a couple of decks of Venn, and like there's a Cardistry touch deck that's there, and a couple of novelty decks. Like there's like a 3D lenticular cat deck that I got
nice.
for her.
Nice.
She loves cats.
Nice.
The deck's terrible, but
I don't care.
It's funny. Yeah.
If she's not into decks, she doesn't care.
Yeah.
That's too funny.
And what else? There's like some card games with poker-sized playing cards.
Nice.
So cards are not. So it's not like cards are her thing as well.
No. Like she has cards because of me, but it's not like if I wasn't around, she'd be hoarding cards on her own.
And
I don't think
does
so.
she get in on the creative process with you at all? Does she kind of lend a collaborative or a kind of
critical eye?
like a critical eye? Does she give you feedback on it? Do you bounce ideas off of her?
Yeah, I do. I ask her for her input on certain things, and she often sometimes she helps me with some creative stuff as well. Like
nice.
There's the picture that we used for the announcement of when the cards went on sale. It's like
nice.
Cards are available now, link in bio. That picture was taken by her at
Oh,
Home
nice.
Depot. So
Oh,
we found a bunch
sweet.
of swatches, and then we just went to a ladder that was there, laid out the swatches with the cards on top of it, took a snap, and then she went back, took out her iPad, and edited it on Procreate, and then sent it to
Nice.
me. So
Sweet.
I'm very appreciative of that. It was really nice of her to do.
That's cool.
Was
Yeah.
anyone in Home Depot looking at you like you're crazy, being like, "What are these people doing?"
Maybe, but we didn't pay attention to them.
There you
'Cause who
go.
cares?
That's
Yeah,
how
I
it
gotta
should
say,
be.
this is a dope picture though too, because it has like that nice marble background to it.
Oh
And-
yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's really nicely done.
Now, just so you know, everybody, if you're looking to take photos, go to Home Depot.
There you go. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm
Just
sure
as
you
long
could
as you
find
tag,
a lot of
as long
stuff
as you
there.
tag Kevin saying, inspiration from Kevin.
Oh my
It's the
god, there you
Ho
go.
Depot. Ho
There
Depot.
you go. Photo shoot at Home Depot. Next up, Lowe's.
That's Huron. Huron Low.
There you go.
Oh, nice.
Oh my god, dude, that would be one. Hose Depot and Lowe's. You just roll with it. Make there you go, a collab. Bring
Dude,
it back to
collab?
the beginning.
Dude, Huron and you doing a collab? That'd be
Yeah.
dope.
Yeah,
Sounds like you've done that before.
I feel like you could come up with a really interesting like shape approach for it too, based on the Home Depot and Lowe's logos without them being the logo. You know?
Oh yeah, yeah, and the colorways would be pretty
Yeah.
interesting to
The
match
orange
up.
and blue, kind of like the what is it? The USF?
Now, oh yeah, the Gators. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Gators. It's
Yeah.
USF, right?
UCF. You see it. I don't know. UF. One of them.
University.
Are we talking about University of Florida?
Central.
Yeah.
Yeah.
UOF.
No, just UF. But
UF?
yeah, UF. Yeah. USF is the Bulls, and it's green and gold. Green and gold. Yeah.
Huh.
So there's too many Florida schools. But so now, playing with this deck, are you already kind of ideating on what the next deck is going to be? Or are you still kind of just relishing the fact that this project has been completed and it's out there now?
I think the latter. I'm just kind of, focusing on getting the word out there on the deck and selling them
Yeah.
before, looking into the next one, whatever that will be.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Dude,
this is what, a fourth deck under your belt already?
Yeah, yeah.
That's impressive, dude. It's been what, a year and a half?
A little under 2, right?
Yeah. So I think the first aerodynamics was in the fall of 20. I think it was in the fall of 2020.
It was, right?
Damn,
It was like
really?
a year and a half.
Damn.
Yeah.
Right.
So like a little under a year and a half.
Crazy.
And those OG what was that, the black and white ones, right?
Yeah. Black
And I
white
feel
one.
like that feels like a lifetime ago at this point.
I know it feels like it was 3 years ago, but it wasn't. It
Dude,
was
you
only
can
like a year and
Crazy.
change.
And you can see up here we got the
The Chinatowns.
the V2 and the V3 brick box, and then a gilded one right there as well.
Whoa.
Yeah,
sick.
man. Gotta rep the aerodynamics there.
Thank you for the support. I really
Dude.
appreciate it.
I love them. Honestly, I love the design style you do with it. Like I said, it's very minimalist. Yours are probably the only decks that I go for that are primarily cardistry focused, because I'm not a cardist. My hands can barely tie shoes, let alone spin cards. So from that point of view, like for me, I love the story behind it. I love the artistic attention to detail. I love Pablo's work as well with those. But like even with these, like I love that it's not just 2 circles with the white spot, like again, like you said, the ripple around it and the vibe of it all. It just comes together with such attention to detail. It just stands out.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Anytime.
definitely.
So
definitely.
if there's one thing you could say to anyone out there who's sitting here being like, I like the deck, but I'm not sure, what would you say?
I would say that you can get them right now for a steal. You won't be able to get like most other cards at this price, and they're USPCC crushed premium stock. Feel really good. And if you do Magic, then you've got all your pips lined up for you. It's a deck that doesn't ask as much of you as Aerodynamics does, in terms of having to determine how to point everything and do the flourishes. You can just kind of freestyle with it as you wish. So it's pretty free form. and I've been enjoying it a lot. Like it's my go-to these days. It's my everyday carry.
And it's
Card-wise.
$10. $10.
You can't beat that, honestly. I mean, unless you're going out there to get a plain old bicycle deck, and who the hell wants to carry an everyday bike deck? You know, the Venn's fun. It's got an inadvertent vintage vibe to it. It just looks good. Dude, I love it. I absolutely love it. Kevin, I always love to see what you bring to the table too, man. Like I said, I think you're probably one of the more intentional designers out there who's not just running with a cool idea, but there's meaning behind it. And I respect that, man. I have a lot of respect for what you do. And I think you've really helped shape the community into what it is today. And you continue to bring that knowledge and contribution. It's awesome, man.
Oh, thank you,
just
Tyler.
said I'm sold. I'll take 2 for now.
Thank you,
go.
Boo. I appreciate it.
Dude, you will not be disappointed. They're dope decks. So anyone out there who's on the fence, go get these things. Momentum.cards. You can pick up the Venn deck for $10, which is an absolute steal. If you pick up a half brick, you're getting a really cool custom half brick box there. What do you have to lose? And it's almost Christmas time for everyone out there who has
That's
a card
true.
lover in the family. Go get yourself some Venn decks.
Get some Venn playing cards.
Oh,
for
mine
your
for yourself.
friends and loved ones and yourself.
Yes. Do not leave anyone off the list. These should be your stocking stuffers across the board this year, but it's a limited supply, so you got to get them now.
Yes.
Kevin, it's a pleasure always, man, having you on. We really do appreciate you coming on to talk about this awesome deck, this awesome collab. And honestly, I was thinking about it earlier. I'm like, man, we got to try and get Eliot on at some point to talk about what it was like for him to do the collaborative aspect of it as well. And I thought of it so last minute. I'm like, I know he's in another part of the world. I don't know how timing would line up. Being last minute, I was like, all right, we'll go without him for this time around, but we're gonna have to really set that up, especially if you start doing more collabs with him as well.
Maybe round 2.
Yeah, dude, that would be fun.
Yeah,
I could see a Venn diagram and some fun pastel colors. Just saying, Easter's not that far off. So
Dude, you know what would look dope?
Tell us,
Momentum.cards across the front with the Venn diagram in the back.
Like some merch.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd look pretty cool.
Space it out too, so that like the dots in the center of the Venn, and then cards is in one circle and momentum's in the other with the crossover.
Oh, that could be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, you can have some fun with it, man. Dude, there's a lot of possibility with this. I love the deck. I think it looks great, and congratulations on 4 decks in what seems to be a little over a year, man. That's amazing. That's an amazing job, and you've really been doing a lot of successful decks. Which I gotta say, are people still able to pick up any of the aerodynamic decks?
Yes, they can get the Chinatown, the V3 edition for $15 on the Momentum.cards website. So if you go to Momentum.cards, you can get Venn and the V3 aerodynamics.
Nice.
Definitely make sure to check those out, everybody, because honestly, the V3s are awesome. I'm still a big fan of the V2s. I like the rounded edges to some of the arrows and the little bit of difference there. But I got to say, the V3s are a very close second on that one because they just look great. They're all great. I can't even give them a hard time. They're all great. For anyone who's into cardistry, into Magic, these are some decks you definitely want to check out because they have some nice elements to them across the board, and they're going to be an interesting but very unassuming conversation piece no matter what.
Yeah.
Kevin, thanks so much for coming on, man. We can't wait to see what else you have in store coming up. And for everyone out there, thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and head to MomentumCards.com to pick up your Venn playing cards today. Absolute steal again till Friday. If you're on the fence, save yourself like $2. Momentum.cards. I always effing do that. Always. I'm gonna have to buy you MomentumCards.com just so it forwards to Momentum Cards.
Yeah.
But definitely go check it out, everyone. Momentum.cards. The link is down in the description below, so you can ignore my mistakes on it. Click the link. It won't steer you wrong. Check them out. Kevin, again, thank you, man.
Yeah, and thank you, Steve and Tyler, for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Always
a
man.
pleasure.
You're always welcome.
Absolutely, always a pleasure. Everyone out there, enjoy your Wednesday night. We will see you this Friday for a fun episode of this week's Top 3. And again, make sure to head over to Momentum.cards and pick up yourself a Venn playing cards deck. Jeez, stuttered it out there. I got the URL right. Everything else was wrong. So we'll see you all Friday.
Peace out, y'all.
Peace.